and practices, some of the important manifestations and practices of this developmentalism, uh, can be explained with the help of this SDGs, for example, or Millennium Development Goals, MDGs. So this MDGs, for example, when they were all, I think, being developed and then going to be implemented all across the world by international development agencies in partnership with the native governments, then that has again revived the interest of many researchers in social science to focus on, I think, poverty, inequality, empowerment, all these important issues, which at one point of time, maybe in 80s, was thought that, okay, I think they're not very important when neoliberalism was taking to play a role, particularly in terms of development practices of international organizations, mainly championed by United States of America, I think, economics and Thatcherism. But luckily, I think neoliberalism and its policy contributes. In its policy revival. Ultimately, I think got its own death, and there is a revival of developmentalism, and that has again ignited the minds of many social scientists all across the country, particularly in developing countries, to go for, I think, comprehensive research on these issues of development. So that's third thing. Then uh, another development which has happened at the international level, including our own country also, that post 1990s, I think there are a good number of actors in the development space, including donors, who are eager to listen to social scientists. I think that's again another kind of a development that again is expanding the scope for research for social scientists. Then the other thing which has again rekindled the interest of social scientists in researching, in social science, happens to be, I think, the regaining of importance in social science on evidence-based research. For a long time, as many of us have understood, I think Dr. Sharma might have definitely experienced that. For a good number of decades, social science research was caged to what we call idealism. I see this imprisonment, this ideology imprisonment of social science research continued for a long time, and particularly when Cold War between United States of America and Russia was at its peak. But after the end of the Cold War, now gradually people are realizing that, I think, the sooner we come out of this kind of an ideological imprisonment in research, better. So that's why today the focus is more on, particularly by international notes and even in academics also, that we need to have more of evidence-based research, so that we can keep ideological, I think, overtones. I think we can keep them at a bay, and then the research that we undertake, I think that gives us, I think, better understanding of social realities, and that would help in better formation of public policy by governments of the day. So this is again another reason for which there is improved and increased, I think, desire and necessity on the part of researchers to undertake research in social science. And the last point for which research in social science is so important today is all about this urge to overcome this a priori notion of policymakers. What is that? You must have seen, I think many of us have realized, the bureaucrats or the developmental practitioners, sometimes they call them, but then many times they work on public policy, I think, on the basis of their a priori notion. They have got some understanding of social science on their own, and on the basis of that, they work. Now it's time, and that has led to failure or suboptimal. I think suboptimal. That has made many of that programs suboptimal in terms of its output or you can say delivery. So it's time that many in social science, including development practitioners themselves, have realized that we need to come out of this kind of a priori notion of policymakers. Then that has increased scope for undertake the more of research in order to bring in the realities of you can say different developments in the social science and in the social space. And the last one, which is also equally important, is the issue of structure and agency. The issue of structure and agency. Now, this agency dimension for a long time was not given emphasis on, much emphasis in development policy and for that matter in social science. Essentially, the importance was on the structure. I say agency means the human, it's all about the human capability. I think the individual capability. So I think for a long time, when it comes to social, developmental schemes implementation or social science research, more emphasis was on this, particularly in development practice, not on, I think, the human agency. But with the coming up of this human development theory, the capability expansion hypothesis of Amartya Sen, I think this has again given a boost to the agency aspect in development, and that has again increased the scope of research. So these are the various reasons for which research in social science has become important, and that's the reason that social scientists today are interested to undertake research. In addition to the common requirement of research scholars to earn a degree for PhD. Then the next question, briefly, I'll touch upon what to research. I think this is again very important whenever any young researcher undertakes, or you can say embarks upon the path of journey of research. What to research? So the selection of topic is also equally, or is very important. And that requires, for young research scholars, I would advise that requires an extensive study of literature. I think I always believe the more you study, better you are, I think, the better expertise you can to focus or very concisely write down your synopsis, your research proposal. So I think that's why having or undertaking a comprehensive study of literature is essentially a requirement. It is very important requirement, so that then you can fine tune your research proposal, you can find out the research gap, and then you can focus, and then your subsequent research process can be more efficient. And the third one is all about how to research. And that's what I think this webinar is essentially more about how to research, wherein methodology comes to play a role. Methodology comes into picture. First, as I said, there are eminent, I think, research persons who will be talking about the methodology, qualitative, quantitative, experimental, the need, and we need to increase the tools, quantitative tools, qualitative tools. I know I'm not going to dwell upon all those issues. I keep it for them to discuss it in the class, I think, in the subsequent session. But let me talk about a little bit of the approach to research, which is also a part of how to research. I think, as we all understand, that is what the new education policy 2020 is essentially going to. That's because there is possibility, there is deficiency of that kind of research. Many times, including me also as a faculty member in the university, we all live in our silos. We work in silos. I'm working in economics. I will work only specific problems concerning in economics, and that too without understanding that the typical problems that I'm going to examine in research in economics may not be the offshoot of only economic factors per se. It may be the result of many other non-economic factors, institutional factors. For example, in the Northeast, my own practical experience says, see, when we were examining the efficacy of marriage all across the country, 22 states, including the Northeast. In Northeast, when we were examining the, impact assessment, doing some impact assessment of Indian NRGA in the Northeast, we found Tripura did very well, Sikkim did very well. The rest of the states didn't do that much. I think when it came to I think realizations, achievements with reference to different dimensions of Indian NRGA. So what's the reason? Same program and our money, I think money is there, but then some states could achieve, I think, better, do better compared to other states. When I analyze the reasons for this kind of discrepancy, I think essentially it was not because of any economic factor, it was basically because of institutional. It may be governance, it may be the values, the practices, the formal and the informal institutions all taken together. They were responsible for, I think, low performance of this program in some states and high performance of this program in some other states like Tripura and for that matter. So what I wanted to tell you that I think the broad approach to undertake research in social science in these days, I think, should be multidisciplinary. I think we need to come out of our silos and undertake more of research in a multidisciplinary arrangement. And that is why the universities are best placed to undertake. Although technically, I think they do have the competence and the environment, the ecosystem, but unfortunately, many of them, they remain in their silos, including me, for example. I also admit that. But the NEP 2020 wants to break this kind of silos and see that more and more of research, I think, happens in a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary arrangement. So that should be the new approach to research. It should be multidisciplinary. And the other thing I think which our researchers need to take care of in days to come, I think look at the changing nature of information collection and flow, data flow. Data mining has become an important part. It's in corporate organizations or even in the government. And much of this data mining, I think with the data mining also, I think if the social scientists also get a little bit of training with respect to different dimensions of this data mining, which includes, for example, statistics, artificial intelligence, its use of artificial intelligence, like, for example, softwares, etc., and machine learning, which basically includes algorithms, etc. So with a little bit of understanding and practice and training, I think huge amount of data mining can be undertaken, and that would help our research scholars to remain contemporary with respect to many of the socioeconomic issues that as social scientists were going to research on. So that's all about the first part of my lecture. And in another 2-3 minutes, let me just finish off the second part of my lecture. That's all about the social science research landscape in the Northeast, or what needs to be. When I see the research landscape in the Northeast, I know what I feel that we have undertaken in the past more of research on social issues as situations, not as processes. You can all understand. For example, if somebody undertakes a research on human development, human rights situation in the Northeast, he or she explains broadly, okay, this is what the human development index is in this part of the country, this is all different dimensions, and in this district this is less, in other district it's more. So it's basically a narrative with respect to different dimensions of human development and human development index, etc. But then the basic issue is that if a particular district or region is having low human development, then what are the reasons for that? Why is that region, that district is having low human development index? And that's what, so when somebody ventures out to discuss or explain these aspects, this is called the process aspect. So what are the factors which are responsible for, I think, for low human development status in that particular district? So that's what we are more interested in, not simply narrating the situation. So we need to move from situational analysis to process analysis when it comes to social science research in the Northeast. Second, as I have already said, we need to come out of our silos. I think we are bound by our disciplinary, I think, case. We need to, I think, come out of that case, that prison, and adapt and accept more interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary kind of environment. Then the third one, which I think there is an imperative, for undertaking research artist, and that needs to be done. That's all about the lack of research-based policy in the Northeast. And then again, evidence-based research, both. Many times, the public policies in the Northeast, their formulation and implementation are suboptimal, or they fail, essentially because they are not based on, I think, some kind of efficient research to back them up. And that's where actually the academia and policymakers, I think, interconnectedness comes. That's where actually social scientists have a great role to play, and the government also need to reach out to social scientists. And then that combination of government with social scientists will be of help to provide that kind of a benchmarked, I think, research which would ultimately help social, governments, of the states to come out with efficient, I think, public policies. Evidence-based research and research-based policy, I think they are the lead of the hour in the Northeast, and there is the positive of that, and we need to have more such kind of policy. Then we need to also free research from ideological imprisonment, and I have already discussed. And the Northeast, as we see, for example, for a pretty long time, we are all, I think, governed by, many of these value systems which has become obsolete. There are value systems which are complementary, which are, I think, all times to come. And there are value systems actually which scares us. We need to come out of it. And in the grab of ideology, when they are putting into research, that I think brings in all kinds of distortion in research and policy, which are based on that kind of a distorted, I think, research, I think, will not be optimal, will not be efficient. Then we have data constraints. We all understand in the Northeast, with respect to national sample study, for example, one example I'm giving. Many times the NSS data are available for bigger states or smaller states like the Northeastern states, except Assam, we don't find those kind of data. So unit level data, of course, are available, but no one has to rely on that. So we have data constraints in the Northeast. Then the other thing which we need to do when it comes to research in the Northeast, we have to embrace new areas. We need more such research. For example, when it comes to development, there is a fundamental change with respect to the approach to development in the Northeast. The initial approach was in a framework of center-periphery model. Money would come from center, and we would develop to that. The new arrangement which has come up is going to come up with artist policy becoming the macro development strategy for the Northeast. It's all about, I think, centering around the strategy of development of promoting efficient entrepreneurship. And I think and there itself, that's why so we need to enter into these kind of newer areas: activist policy, entrepreneurship, democratic transition and consolidation, social protection and inclusion. Because with every higher growth, I think inequalities may increase. So we need to also have more such research on that aspect, actually, democratization, consolidation, and social protection and inclusion, and cultural assimilation. That's another area. I think these are some of the emerging areas wherein we need more of research. I think as social scientist or in social science. Then we need to have also more research, what we call in social science research, neighborhood research. This is very, this is very prominent in many of these in Western countries. But we haven't, for example, this whole microfinance and microcredit revolution as a practice to empower the poor emerged from this kind of a neighborhood research undertaken by Muhammad Yunus in the context of Meghalaya, as in the context of Bangladesh. When he was a professor in Kitgum University, he experimented with this microcredit arrangement in a village which was very near to his university. And subsequently, he disproved. See, before that, before this microcredit, this Grameen Bank arrangement came in, we were taught in economics that poor are not bankable by the, by the public sector banks, by the formal financial institutions. But again, and the poor will not be bankable. But he, through his neighborhood research, he proved that poor can easily be bankable, are more bankable compared to the rich, because I think from experimentation he has shown the rate of repayment of loans given by Grameen under the peer pressure and group lending approach that's more than 90%, whereas for public sector banks in our country we find it's less than 90%. So that itself speaks that there is enough scope of undertaking neighborhood research, which has tremendous impact on efficient public policy. That also need to understand. And action research is another area. So that also needs to be promoted. Then the last part of my lecture, which I would like to emphasize on here, is when it comes to research in academic institutions, I think in the NEP we are going to make it a change now. We do not have any, visible and viable research environment in the colleges. For the whole country, only 2.5% colleges run PhD program. And that's the reason actually we are unable to promote more of research in our academic institutions. It's time now that it's not that research is something big which only in the universities and in the selected elite institutions this can happen. No, research is something should ignite the minds of students, young people, right from their undergraduate days. Some components, some aptitudes concerning research needs to be given to our young people in the college. So some amount of research culture should come to the colleges, and that's what NEP 2020 envisages. I think let me end up here itself. I have to attend another program. So thank you so much. I think the organizers, Dr. Pankaj, Dr. Ankur, and especially my thanks to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, I think Professor Deepak Kumar Sharma, for giving me this opportunity to reflect upon some of the insights of mine concerning research and research in the Northeast. When it comes to research methodology per se, I leave it to the eminent research persons who are there itself to address and interact with the scholars and the faculty. I think in today and tomorrow. Thank you so much. I think Dr. Pankaj and Dr. Ankur.
Yes, thank you so much for your enlightening speech. And as they say, as good as it gets. I was fascinated to hear from our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, just a while back. Now, after listening to your keynote address, I'm pretty sure that this has given a glimpse of the kind of research methodology workshop that we are going to have over the course of next 7 days. Sir, we are also very thankful to you for taking out from your busy schedule. As you already have said, you have another meeting after this. So we are very thankful to you for taking out of your busy schedule and be present here and enlightening us with your speech. And during your keynote address, you have divided your speech into two parts. The first one, highlighting on the issues of research in social sciences in general, and in the second part, particularly talking about the context of Northeast. And in the first part, you have definitely dwell upon the questions of why to do research, how to do research, and also what to do in research. And also you have definitely talked about the issues of developmentalism, also the accentuation on the ideology driven research approaches, and also the questions of for example a priori a notion of the policymakers in terms of formulating policies in the context of India. And definitely, you have also given the pitch to move from ideology-driven approach to a evidence-based approach in research. Similarly, you have talked about the role that the academicians and the proper research needs to play in terms of replacing the a priori notion of doing research in terms of policy formulation. So, and in context of Northeast as well, you have talked about the questions of agency and structure. You have talked about again moving from this a priori knowledge to again evidence-based policy research. So, and also you have given a lot of food to ponder over and contemplate in terms of pursuing research, and you have also left a lot of questions to be answered in the next few days. So we are very thankful to you, sir, once again. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank you once again, and we are very hopeful that in even future course, we are going to get your association in numerous occasions. So thank you once again, sir. Now, after this segment, I would like to move on to the next segment, which is the vote of thanks section. And so for this, I would like to request Dr. Madan Chandra Boru, sir, the Honorable HOD, the head of the Department of Political Science of Kumar Bhaskar Roma Sanskrit and Ancient Studies University to, sir, may I request you to kindly unmute yourself and offer the vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Boru, sir.
Uh, Thank you, Ankur. Audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay.
Let's go ahead. Yes.
So, good morning to all. And